It was 2:30 a.m., and as he couldn't sleep, Fred was surfing the internet. That night, for the first time, he decided to enter OMEGLE. Fred was looking for someone interesting to talk to until he finally stopped at one person. Apparently, was a man sitting with his back to the camera. He wore a black hat on his head and was in an empty room with a very dim light. Fred typed, "Hey man, the camera is on the other side." Then the man turned to face the camera, but Fred couldn't see his face because he was wearing a bizarre mask that looks like it was made of plaster or wax, and the smiling red mouth looks painted with smudged lipstick. Fred started a conversation with the stranger, saying that his mask was quite scary and asking why he didn't want to show his face. But the man didn't answer anything, just stood there staring at the camera, and at most he tilted his head sideways. As he did not interact, Fred disconnected from the chat to look for someone else. The site looked for another random stranger and returned with the same man in the same mask. Now he was closer to the camera, and the sound was a high-pitched noise. "You again," typed Fred. Then the masked man started chatting by text, saying, "Let it in." Fred jokingly replied, "Only if you bring beer." The stranger continued, "We are Louisville family." Fred asked, "Where are you from?" Without answering the question, he continued, "Let it in, we are family." After that, the man started to respond with numbers that looked like geographic coordinations mixed with schedules. The strangest thing was that even when he was typing, the strange masked man did not move the image. Fred started to think that this was a recording and not the image of a real camera. However, as there was nothing more interesting to be entertained, since most of the other users of the site at that time were just looking for futility, so Fred continued talking to the stranger. Suddenly, the man stopped responding and stood looking at the camera. Then Fred's cell phone started ringing, and the call showed a huge number, whose area code was not from Brazil and the country code was 007, which after researching, Fred discovered it was from Russia. A little scared, Fred thought it best not to answer it, but the same number called again and again until Fred decided to answer it, but no one answered, and then started playing a little music from a music box. "What drug is this? Who is this?" asked Fred. The sound was sinister. Then there was a noise of radio interference and the call dropped. Soon after, the masked man reconnected to the chat. "Let it in." Fred started to be scared. At first, he even thought it might be some funny guy who was playing a joke. Again, Fred's cell phone rang. He answered it, and it was the same number, the same strange call. When the call ended, the screen went black for a few seconds, and then suddenly came back. Now, Fred saw the image of a half-dark street. You could only see the posts and a few houses. The image started to move, as if the person who was filming had started walking down the street. Fred then realized it was his home street. When the image started to approach his house, Fred ran to the living room, opened the window slowly, and stood looking out the window that faced the street, but Fred saw nothing, absolutely nothing, and no one on the street. The street was deserted and silent. So Fred quickly closed the window, and after checking that the front door was securely locked, he ran back to his room and locked the bedroom door from the inside, terrified. Then, suddenly, the man with the mask appeared in the image again and typed, "Let it in." Then Fred replied that he was going to call the police, and the man stayed there for a few more minutes filming his house. Frightened, Fred disconnected from the chat and left Omegle. He looked for a logical explanation for that, but found none. He came to think that it could be a joke from someone who knew him, but this would be a very unlikely hypothesis. How would it be possible for an acquaintance to enter Omegle at the same time as him and find him among thousands of people online all over the world? He then decided to search for those geographic coordinations that the masked man had sent him. He found out that they led to an empty lot in Russia. A few minutes later, Fred received a friend request on Facebook from one Lucille Maka. Upon seeing the name, Fred felt a shiver and immediately refused the request. Then, trying to find out something about the mysterious man, Fred visited his profile. The profile photo was of the same man from Omegle, with the same black hat and the same sinister mask. Suddenly, Fred received a box message from the same Lucille Maka saying, "Let's enter. We are family." Fred immediately blocked Lucille Maka's profile. However, minutes later, Fred received a video call via Messenger, and terrified, he saw that the call was from the same Lucille Maka. But how was it possible? EF had just blocked him. How was it possible that this guy called Lucille on Messenger? Trembling when he answered the call, he was overcome with terror when he saw the image of the front of his house appear on the screen. Then suddenly the image changed. Now Fred was looking at the picture of his house. Inside, he saw the image of his office and the stairs that led to the top floor. And after that, the screen went dark and he disconnected. Fred immediately called the police, saying that his house was being invaded. When the police arrived, they found Fred's body in his room, with the door locked inside, still holding the cell phone in his hand. The police had concluded that the cause of death was undetermined. He seemed to have suffered a heart attack. Everything in his house was perfect. The order was there. There was no sign of a break-in, except what the police had to do to enter the house. Nothing was stolen. Everything was in place. Thank you for all who watched the video until now. Please leave a like and subscribe and share the video with your friends. Also leave your opinion down below in the comment section. Always take care and stay safe.